Hello and welcome to Wake and Jake, myself, Davis Wimbledon, and a little Foolish Bailey at the end. He will be here, full Foolish Bailey episode, a week from Wednesday. So Wednesday, June 21st. I think I got that right, 7 days a week. But, and I tell this as we talk about it, Bailey really wanted to talk some Oakland A's and Kansas City Royals, and I basically told him that's the worst click you could possibly put on YouTube. And boy, was I wrong a couple days ago, because the Oakland Athletics have been the best click on YouTube for the reverse boycott, the anti-boycott. What's the phrase?
Reverse boycott.
Reverse boycott, which is so hilarious.
Last 24 hours or so, a little more, I guess, since the Vegas update.
Yeah. Hot in the street. So we do talk about that in a little, so I get there. The other piece of meat that we didn't have as I talked to him a couple hours ago, our guy, Vinny Pasquantino, out for the year. Torn labrum or something in the shoulder. Crazy, man. That's the worst gets worse for the Kansas City Royals as they've become the worst team in baseball. So, again, we talk about that in a minute. I do want to touch upon just a couple quick random thoughts that are in my head. Injuries, again, I've been on a big kick of this that, like, there's way too many, and I'm getting to the point where I'm going to start researching something, and you guys know that's not my game. Another weird Jake fun fact here. There's a meme just constantly stuck in my head now. It's the Shaq meme of him saying, like, I'm sorry, I wasn't quite familiar with your game. That just kills me.
That one's at the front of your mind right now.
It's just always on my head. Like, I want to say it to basically everyone who's wearing a shirt and being like, So
shirt you like at all.
Does it recognize your game? I don't even have the quote right. Oh, it's I owe you an apology. I wasn't really familiar with your game. He said that to Christian Wood after he scored 27 points. And I don't know. I think the blatant honestly is hilarious. And I don't know, just saying to that people, I think is funny. Anyways, Lance McCullers out for the season today. That was swept under the rug.
Astros.
Like, what? Like, it's
a big deal.
That's a guy who's had, like, big playoff moments on a World Series team. And
it changes their playoff formula a lot.
So, I don't know, man. It feels like every day, a really good starting pitcher and an up-and-rising star hitter in this game out for the season today, not, like, banged up. I don't know. If you're a injury nerd, I guess reach out to me because I need more stats on it.
Colors had not thrown a ball this year yet.
Astros, 38-29. By the way, game ahead of the Angels. Fangraphs has the Angels playoff percentage up to 40%. Interesting team. Astros they're without Yordan right now, and they said it's going to be like 4 weeks. The injury thing
they're
blows.
Not having a good time.
When do the Yanks play the Astros? I feel like that's something we normally know.
It's kind of late.
And the fact we don't almost makes me a little sad.
I want to say they play them in like August and September.
I think that's more Yankees stuff. So sorry to all our Houston fans. I will say this. Giants call up Luis Matos on the top of my brain. There was also a player for the Baltimore Orioles a couple years ago named Luis Matos, who was a center fielder, and I really liked I wasn't familiar with his game. Big neck, covered ground, long neck, covered ground in center field. Had like one good season, 1.5. But he's supposed to be a big prospect, so I guess that's probably pretty interesting in Giants land. I think I'm going to take two quick digs at myself.
Astros come here August 3rd. First time they play. Then they play in Houston September 1. Dig it yourself.
Get healthy, Yordan and Judge. I did tweet out last night the Yankees are a joke right now because they were throwing the ball around the infield. Gleyber Torres missed a double play ball to get Severino out of an inning that he was struggling as much as a pitcher can struggle, that you get the miracle ball, the savior. And he didn't botch it. He whiffed it. And then there's another throw, and it goes off Rizzo's foot. I was in a pretty dark place. Luckily, they were playing the New York Mets. Yankees come back and win. Two of my biggest tweets in a while, back to back. Basically, I love this team and I hate this team. And just another reminder of baseball being ridiculous. And me and Bailey talk about this. I think it's next week's episode. I don't think it's it is attached to this episode, but where baseball is really special, there is a variance in each season that just cannot be predicted. And man, with the Royals, it's like the saddest thing ever. But there's a third team that I keep ignoring. And by the way, I can't quit. And I'm still not officially quitting, even though they had another incredibly bad loss. And it's L5 in the column. And things are literally worse than ever. The St. Louis Cardinals, just a reminder, and I'm going to remind myself, Wake and Jake episode, baseball's about to start, excited as all hell. Newt Bar won me over at the WBC. I'm like, damn, this team is cracked. And they've got bonus pieces. I bought all the Cardinal stock I could the second before the season. And they are the third worst team in baseball to the two teams that me and Foolish are about to talk about. So, crazy. They got to do something. Trade. We talked about that on Talking Baseball. Spiritually, if I'm a Cardinals fan, like, I don't know how much you could look at Marmol, right? Like, I'm not even saying it's his fault. He didn't give up the homer with 2 outs, 2 strikes in the 9th, but vibes are real, and vibes are as bad as any vibe could ever be. Brian Hoke tweeted out today that Volpe found a mechanical tweak in his stance, so he's fixed.
Yeah, they're showing it on the post game last night.
So he's perfect.
Did you see the story of how they found it?
Dinner, chicken parmesan and spaghetti was served.
Yeah, dinner with Austin Wells and some of the other minor league boys.
Pump that into my veins. Enjoy this conversation with Foolish Bailey. Is brought to you by the DraftKings Sportsbook. Baseball is rolling, and you can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you use code BAKERS, baby. I got a couple golf bets coming out this week. Get ready for that. Here we go. Last thing I got to do on a long day. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Massachusetts, call 800-327-5050 for visit gamblinghelpline.ma.org. In New York, 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Kansas, call 1-800-522-4700 on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Opt in. And 10 plus leg required for 100% boost. Eligibility, wagering, and deposit restrictions apply. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/baseball. Enjoy. We are joined by number one guest in program history, Foolish Bailey himself. Bailey, how are you, my good man?
I'm doing well. I'm doing very well. Last night, there was a game that was reverse boycotted.
And I'm here to talk about it.
Some people just call that attending, yeah. but no. Last night was a reverse boycott, and so as I said on Twitter earlier, I think anything that I attend, spend money on, participate in any way, including this podcast, I will say I'm reverse boycotting your Wake and Jake show today.
You are, and I thank you for reverse boycotting us. And Bailey, something that we've found success with at this silly company is being open, is pulling back the curtain and telling people how it works. So I, as we've done on here, I was like, Bailey, let's do something once a month. The Wake and Jake community is about it. It's the easiest work for you because you're not editing for 2 weeks. You're not doing your normal green screen content that you're always posting.
Right.
It's killing me.
Yeah, I'm doing green screen stuff all the time.
We're gonna wrap this up with a 4-hour Star Wars recap. That I asked you, I was like, actually, I'll give you credit in something that perked me up because I was like brainstorming some ideas. You were like, hey, can I pitch some ideas? And I was like, absolutely, dude. Like, let's rip stuff. I'm all about it. I'm game. The first idea you messaged me was, can we do some Royals A's love, which is probably the worst click in YouTube history.
Oh, yeah.
So I said, let's do that for a little bit. I'd love to do something else. So we're going to do some A's Royals love, which I am excited about because, I do have that baseball dog in me that after seeing the A's come through Yankee Stadium and seeing their product, I was pretty blown away. And was like, oh my God, I can't believe they're doing this. That they are now on a 7-game win streak. They are reverse boycotting in the stands, which I'm a massive fan of. I've reverse boycotted Duncan this morning. I reverse boycotted.
Really stuck it to them.
Yeah, reverse boycotted just salads. I'm excited to talk about them, and then we will do the all old baseball draft. So I'm excited about that. But for now, Bailey, I will kick it to you, and I want to see where you start with these A's and Royals because you wanted to give some of the fellas some love, so I'm interested to see where you take it.
Yeah, so the first thing I want to talk about is if you haven't been paying attention, the Oakland A's have now won more games in the standings than the Kansas City Royals. I think they have a couple games in hand, as they like to say. That's a soccer term, by the way. Did you know that when they're looking at the table, they're like, Arsenal lead by 3 points, but they have 2 matches in hand, or whatever. So
BBD changed the title to Foolish Bailey Talks About Soccer? That's how we're going to get the click.
I'm going to green screen a soccer pitch behind me. But yeah, so the Kansas City Royals, God love them, their streak, they're on an L8. They're on an L8, and the Oakland A's, as you alluded to earlier, they're on a W7.
Yeah.
So they're basically on the same tier of team, which is sort of different because, I think coming into the season, it was like, okay, the Royals, so let's say, a few weeks ago, the Royals are just like regular awful, and the Oakland A's have a chance to be like all-time awful,
Yes.
And now they're kind of on the same tier. So, even if you're like the worst team in the league, you still have good players. You just don't have as many good players as you wish you had. So I just want to take this moment now to say, shout outs to the guys who are going to be sort of the default, like all-star game representatives. I don't know for the Oakland A's if it's going to be Brent Rooker or Ryan Noda. I think I would actually prefer it to be Noda just because I like the idea of a Rule 5 draft to all-star first year type arc. But they're both having great seasons. Rooker, a lot of power. Noda, a lot of walks, so Noda is basically just like a classic Oakland A's first baseman. Like just,
it's
insane. Derek Barton again. It's Scott Hatteberg again. They have these guys, It's
so insane that that's actually in our brains. Because when I first gave Noda's on base percentage a look, I was like, nice, Oakland first baseman.
That's right. That's what you do.
Hatteberg, right. Yeah, this is it. And here he is. Big legs, by the way. Got good tickets to Oakland Yankees when they were in town, and one of my walkaways was like, oh my, Noda's huge. He's one of the guys that you're like, oh, like amongst all of these kind of beasts, he is massive.
Yeah, he's a specimen for sure, and he's, I love it when guys get a chance like this when they are just, minor league performers every year. Maybe they're a little older to be considered like, big prospects in their organization. And then the great thing about the Rule 5 draft is sometimes those guys get a chance and sometimes they really hit, and he's really hit so far. And then Rooker, honestly, kind of the same thing, like was buried among a bunch of other corner outfield type bats in Minnesota, Larnick, Kirilloff, those types of guys. And now he gets a shot with Oakland, where, maybe there's not the most pressure there, and he's tearing it up as well. So those two especially stand out to me. And then I also want to just mention JP Sears, just because he's basically the respectable starting pitcher in their rotation in terms of the numbers so far. And, there's value in that, because I think when you look at if you told me, hey, this is just a competitive cycle thing, ebbs and flows, in 3 or 4 years, this A's team is going to be good, which is very possible. Right. Who's going to stick around from the bad years to the good years? It could be someone like JP Sears,
Yeah, so a couple things about these A's, and I do want to talk some Royals because in a way I've been mad that you nailed it. They were this year's like normal worst team, and everyone was at grips with that. But Oakland's so bad, and they want to move, and we're reverse boycotting. That now that Oakland has a better win percentage, it's like, wait, what's going on? What's going on in Kansas City? Their division is horrible. There's a lot of young guys that are like, they're in theory supposed to be like at the start of their window with like their young rotation and Pasquantino and Witt. Like this was supposed to be the start, and
they're not planning to bottom out this year.
It's gotten worse, but with that and the Oakland A's, hilarious. Their whole pitching staff is Yankee farmhands. So me and BBD have been talking about Ken Waldachuk, Caprillion, Sears, Luis Medina for the past 5 years now. So seeing them play, and outside of JP Sears, they have not been that good. And good for JP Sears. He's been solid. Just another little anecdote that is funny and ties into sports betting, and we're with DraftKings, obviously. My friends decided literally about 10 days ago to bet the -1.5 against every Oakland game because they're like, these guys stink. This is going to be great money. All of my buddies about 5 days in were like, okay, this doesn't work.
It turns out that's actually baked into the odds already. So,
they figured
that
one
free
out.
Money that way. Yeah.
So how about this? Because let's say Oakland is good in 3 years, or Vegas, or whatever they are.
Yeah.
Who's there? Because Esteury Ruiz, BBD, how many stolen bases does he have?
It's a lot.
107.
Bailey got 107. He's got 31.
Yeah.
Like, we've loved Volpe's base running, although he's done getting on base. He's got 14, and it's been like electric. Like, Yankee fans have never seen this. 31. So Ruiz is going nuts. Rooker, like you mentioned, had the incredible April, horrible May. Now he's kind of back. Double down the line. The Oakland Athletics reverse boycott the World Series. I guess, Langeliers is probably going to be there, right? So the Oakland A's in 3 years, are you buying Bleday stock? Are you going to talk me into Luis Medina right now?
Ooh, I would probably talk to you, Ruiz for sure. But I think Rooker is probably a guy that like has a shot to be moved more so than some of the others we've named, just because he's a little bit older and he doesn't, he doesn't have necessarily like the positional versatility or anything like that. So I could definitely see a team just like going all in on like Rooker and them getting some prospects for that. But I could see them also being like, hey, long term, we want to keep Noda around, at least until he hits ARP. We want to keep Ruiz around. So it'll be interesting to see, because they do have good players they can trade from at the trade deadline. It'll be interesting to see who gets shipped off and who stays.
Yeah, I I think it was like the first or second Talking Baseball episode of the year, and we talk about a lot of games, and just I threw out such a casual like, I think these A's might be like a pesky Oakland team this year, and then they got off to the worst start in baseball history. So there's a little bit of me that's glad they're fighting back, and they're I'm more so happy. As I mentioned, my friends were fully betting the Oakland A's. Yankees had an off day and a smokeout day, so I watched their Pittsburgh Pirates series, and I was watching to get myself excited about the Pirates again after their bad May. And I ended up watching the game, and like Oakland was dominant in those games. Yeah. They were the best. It's not like they won baseball games. Well, their pitching was still one of the ugliest things I've seen. I think they walked 10 batters. Sears was crazily wild. That part stunk. But offensively, their young bats are starting to like become MLB players. And it was a good product that when I saw them earlier in the year, it was not.
Yeah.
Reverse boycott. Dick Lovely.
I'd like to talk a little Royals too, because I don't want to leave them out of this.
Give me some Royals, Bailey.
Yeah. So coming into the season, and I mean, we're all guilty of it, of being just looking at every sort of like bottom tier team and being like, I could see them being pesky this year. I had two teams that I talked up as far as like, oh, these guys were definitely going to beat their win projection. And in the National League, I chose the Diamondbacks, looking good there too. Jake Snakes, they're off to a great start. In the American League, I was like, I like the Royals this year. Like that was my version of I think these guys could be pesky, because they had so many young hitters doing their thing last year. Like last year, this is a crazy stat. The majority of their home runs were hit by rookie hitters last year, like as a team.
Sheesh.
And so I was like, okay, it's just like, I know the pitching's not going to be good, but I think the bats have enough that they'll be, at least somewhat interesting. And you look at it now and it's just like, well, the best hitter in their lineup, at least if Pasquantino's, injured and he hasn't even been that great this year, he's been good, but not great, is Salvi, again.
Yeah.
And it's just like, yeah, shout outs to Salvi. And then their best pitcher at any role is Aroldis Chapman, so it's the old guys. And I'm sure we know both of those guys could very well be picked in our old guy draft coming up.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure you might see Salvi come off the board. Chappie's interesting. Yeah, man, Bailey, I'm kind of with you, because baseball is there's so many possibilities going into a season, and it's part of probably what attracts you and me to a degree to like out of the park baseball, that you could, if you just hit sim on the beginning of the 2023 season with the rosters, you can get, teams will vary in the standings 3 to 4 places. The Rays could go on to have a historic, legendary season. In another version of the simulation, the Rays finished 4th in the AL East this year. And, like, that's baseball. That's injuries. That's luck. That's all of it. It's part of the reason betting the Oakland A's is a dumb bet every night, because even though they're historically bad and how could this happen, still the run differential in a given game is Vegas makes the odds -1.5, and they tweak the numbers a little bit. That this Royals team in another world, like if I told them they were going to get an 800 OPS year out of Salvi, because sometimes he has those fluctuation years, I think Royals fans would have started like drooling a little bit, because Bobby Witt is going to take the jump, right? Like Pasquantino, his walk strikeout numbers as a young player are still insane. And they just called up Michael Garcia. He's supposed to be the next part of that you're like, okay, Melendez batted second or was he leading off was he on the Puerto Rican team, or was he on
he was on Puerto Rico.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe from the WBC, I snagged on to that too much that I was like, wow, like the fact that baseball country has him up in the lineup, I was like, damn, like, okay, so now you're talking about 5 guys towards the top of the lineup, and that's not even considering if, like, the story of baseball happens in the simulation where an Isbell or anyone goes off and has a nice year, but they've been horrible. They're worse than the Oakland A's.
Yeah, I was hyped on Isbell. Like, he has some good StatCast stats. He's a good athlete. Nate Eaton's another guy kind of like that. I was hyped on Michael Massey. He had torn up the minors and looked, decent in the majors. And those guys, they've just got nothing outside of, of just a few kind of veteran guys. And Pasquantino, who's been good but not great, and Witt, a little disappointing. So, I mean, it's tough for them. I feel for Royals fans out there, because I think they had higher expectations than this. And I think, this is a organization that's been in just like total transformation. Like, we're past like the Dayton Moore era, new manager this year. And I think just sort of the realization is, hey, this is going to take maybe a little more time than we thought.
And man, I say the phrase buying stock a lot, which again, I never really done. I don't fully understand it, but I think it works in sports pretty good, because it's people just understand what you're saying. Brady Singer.
Yeah.
First round pick, University of Florida, young pitcher, figuring it out. Seemed like he figured it out. And another guy that I watched and I was like, oh, like passed the eye test last year. I'm going to try to instantly chop up some of his stats. 23 starts last year through the chunk of the season, May 17th to September 23rd. I'm taking out his last start because he got hit. 23 starts. That's a full season for some starting pitchers. 142 innings, a 2.85 ERA. And you're like, okay, the light bulbs clicked. Brady Singer season. They might have a 1. He's been atrocious this year.
Yeah.
And it's like, that part of me hurts even more for Royals fans because him and Bubic, who are some of the other young arms? I'm blanking. They were supposed to be next. Lynch,
Kowar, Asalasi.
Like that was supposed to be the pesky 84-win Royals this year, and now it feels like like you're gonna start hearing Vinny Pasquantino trade rumor Royals.
Right, yeah.
Like is he not in their timeline? Which that's sad for like you can obviously say this, and you can say this for any team that has a pro baseball team. The Reds are a great baseball city. The Oakland Athletics just reverse boycotted a game. So is that a great baseball city? Embrace debate, I guess. Kansas City is like a true America baseball city, and this is bad. They're worse. They're worse than the team that's trying to be bad to move.
Right, yeah.
That's crazy. Give me one. You get to name one player from either team as your final announcement of love. What may be the last time you talk Royals or A's baseball this year?
Yeah. Jordan Lyles. He's eating the innings. It's not been pretty, but someone's got to throw him.
Remember was he the first contract that got signed one free agency?
I think he was the last one before the lockout.
He was the last one before lockout when the Orioles scooped them up.
When the Orioles were...
Was it like we didn't find out till the next day or something? So it was like, by the way, last night Lyles went.
Like Jordan Lyles got $10 million? Good for him. Good for Jordan Lyles. Bailey, I'm glad we got to talk some A's and Kansas City Royals. If you're looking for more Bailey, come listen to the Old Man Draft. Coming up. Bong. That was foolish. Thank him. Go tweet at him and stuff. Say you liked seeing him here. Again, we got a full episode next week. The all-old team. Shout out Canobio. So a lot of fun with that. Otherwise, we'll see you here Monday. And go life.